Okay, let's start once again. Our topic is speech parts, and we'll try to cover 3 topics today: the verb, the adverb, and the pronoun. The first is the verb. We'll look through this topic. A verb is a word that expresses action or state of being. There are 2 samples. The sea often inspires wonder in writers and artists. It's an action verb. And the state of being, the oceans are broad and deep. Are is a state of being. An action verb is a verb that expresses either physical or mental activity. There are samples you see on the screen: paint, jog, write. They refer to physical activity, and think, imagine, hope. They refer to mental activity. So an action verb can be physical activity and mental activity. There are also linking verbs. A linking verb is a verb that expresses a state of being. So all linking verbs are verbs of state of being. A linking verb connects, or we say links, the subject to a word or word group that identifies or describes the subject. And such a word or word groups are called the subject complement. These verbs do not refer to action of any sort. They are not action verbs. They just tell us what the subject is. There are some linking words. The most commonly used, by the way, be and all the forms of be: appear, become, feel, grow, look, remain, seem, smell, sound, stay, taste, and turn. Let's read the samples. Ben is the gardener's assistant. He seems afraid of the swans. One swan looks angry. In fact, swans are rather large birds. Is, seems, looks, are, all of them are linking verbs. Some verbs may be either action verbs or linking verbs depending on how they are used. It depends on the sentence, it depends on the situation. Fidan tasted the soup. Tasted is an action verb in this case. Those vegetables tasted fresh. Tasted is a linking verb in this case. A helping verb, it's also called auxiliary verb, helps the main verb express action or state of being. They are very important because when we use auxiliary verbs, we understand which tense we use. And the verb phrase contains one main verb, one or maybe more helping verbs. And sometimes the verb phrase is interrupted by another part of speech. There are 2 samples. The code was hidden inside the notebook. The helping verb is was. Sparky will not bite you. The helping verb is will. As you say, there is not between will and bite. Will and bite altogether, those 2 words, they are a verb phrase. The verbs can be transitive and intransitive. A transitive verb has an object. It can be a noun or a pronoun that tells who or what receives the action. An intransitive verb does not have an object. This is the difference between them. When did Amy meet you? Amy's action did meet is directed toward you. You is an object in this sentence. Amy smiled sweetly. Amy's action smiled is not directed toward an object. There is no object after smiled, as you say. Only sweetly. It's an adverb. A verb may be transitive in one sentence and intransitive in another. You see the same verbs: drove, it's the past form of drive. Transitive, Hank drove the car. Hank's action drove is directed toward the car. Intransitive sample, Hank drove slowly. Hank's action drove is not directed toward an object. Tenses. First we'll look through progressive continuous tenses. The structure is be plus verb with ing. We always we must remember that be is very important in this tense. So if it's continuous, we need to be forms. It's very important to remember. Let's see the samples for the past progressive tense, or let's say past continuous tense. Lisa was writing a letter to her friend while her brothers were sleeping. You can say two actions, two progressive tense actions. Lisa was writing. She was in the middle of the action. The action was in progress. And at the same time, you say while her brothers were sleeping. They were sleeping. They were in the middle of the action. The action was in progress, in the past. Another sample is Lisa was writing a letter when her mom entered the room. Again, you see two verbs, two tenses. Was writing, it's continuous tense, past continuous. But after when you say her mom entered the room, entered refers to past simple. Mom entered the room, she opened the door and entered the room, and it took a few seconds. The action wasn't in progress. She just opened the door and entered the room. That's why it's used in past simple, not past continuous. This is the difference. Let's move on present progressive tense. Lisa is writing a letter to a friend now. Or we can say at the moment, right now, at present. The action is happening at the time of speaking. Another sample, look, Lisa is writing a letter to a friend. If we say look, listen, so it means something is happening right now at the time of speaking. That's why we use NSR plus ing, the present forms of be. Future continues. Lisa will be writing a letter to a friend at 5 o'clock tomorrow. She will be writing at certain time in the future. The action will be in progress and she'll be in the middle of the action. That's why it's future continuous. For future continuous, we use will be and verb with ing. Another example, Liz will be writing a letter to a friend at this time tomorrow. Again, at certain time in the future. The action will be in progress. Tenses, simple tenses. Let's see the structure. Infinitive, we use infinitive forms or infinitive plus s or es. It depends on the verb. It depends on the spelling rules. We use infinitive plus s plus es for the third singular, for he, she, it. In questions, we use do, does. In negative sentences, we use don't, doesn't. First, we'll start with past. You see the structure of present. I tried to give at least one of the structures. Past simple. In this case, do, does is changed into did. The auxiliary verb will be did for the past simple. The sample is Lisa wrote a letter to her friend yesterday. Something happened yesterday, or maybe last week, last year, or if you see go in the sentences, don't hesitate. You use past simple straight away. You use past simple. Wrote is verb to, is the second form of verb write. And something happened in the past, there is no connection with now, and that's why we use past simple. Lisa wrote a letter to a friend last week. The same structure, and something happened last week. If you say the word last, you use past simple. Next is present simple. Lisa sometimes writes a letter to a friend. We can use sometimes, always, often, every week. If you say we used every week in the second sample, Lisa writes a letter to a friend every week. So repeated action, you repeat this action. Every week, Lisa writes a letter. That's why it's present simple. Future simple with will plus infinitive. This is the structure of future simple. Lisa will write a letter to a friend tomorrow. Tomorrow she will write a letter. It will happen in the future. Lisa will write a letter to a friend in a few minutes. Even if someone wants to do something in a few minutes, in a few hours, so it's future. If you see this structure in a few minutes, in a few days, in a few weeks, months, years, you use future simple. Perfect simple tenses. Have, has, had, will have for the future and plus verb 3, and it's also called participle 2. We say past participle, the third form of the verb. Past perfect. Lisa had written a letter to a friend before her father came home. There is a keyword, before, or pay attention to the second sample. Lisa had written a letter to a friend by the time her brothers arrived home. By the time, before. If something happened before another action in the past, it refers to past perfect. This is the main point. Lisa had written a letter to a friend before father came home. So father came home and he saw that Lisa had written it. She completed the action before he came. Present perfect. Lisa has just written a letter to a friend. Just, our keyword, as you say, adverb. Adverbs that we must remember. Just already we use yet in present perfect at the end of the sentences, especially in questions, in interrogative sentences and negative sentences. Lisa has written a letter to a friend. She can watch TV now. It means the action is completed, but there is connection with now. She has just done something. That's why we use present perfect. Future perfect. Lisa will have written a letter to a friend by 5 o'clock tomorrow. It means by 5 o'clock tomorrow. If you come to Lisa's by 5 o'clock tomorrow, you'll see that she will have written a letter by this time. Or we can use by this time tomorrow instead of by 5 o'clock. Perfect continuous tenses. First, past perfect continuous sample. Lisa had been writing a letter to a friend for 10 minutes before her father came home. The same structure, but the difference is she had been doing something for a period of time, for 10 minutes. That's why it's not had done, it's had been doing. So past perfect, but continuous. She continued writing that letter for 10 minutes in the past, before something happened. The second sample, the same. Lisa had been writing a letter to a friend for 10 minutes by the time instead of before. We use by the time her brothers arrived home. The main point is we pay attention to the period of time. Perfect continuous, but present perfect continuous tense. Lisa has been writing a letter to a friend for 10 minutes. It means we pay attention to the period of time, and we're interested in the action itself, not the result. We'll discuss it. We have another slide, so we'll discuss the difference between present perfect simple and continuous. Lisa has been writing a letter to a friend since 3 o'clock. Again, we show the period, 10 minutes, It's the period itself, but since 3 o'clock, it's the starting point of the period. If we say for and since, straight away we think about perfect tenses. It's very important. Future, perfect continuous. Lisa will have been writing a letter to a friend for 10 minutes by the time her father comes home. The same structure, but in the future. She will have been writing for 10 minutes. Again, we show the period of time. That's why we have to use perfect continuous, not simple continuous. The difference between past simple and present perfect simple, it's very important. Murat painted the walls in his room last week. So completed action in the past. There is no connection with now. Something happened in the past. That's why painted. Present perfect simple, Murat has painted the walls in his room. Not painted, the same sentences, but the difference is, in the second example, you say has painted, and you don't say last week. And in the first one, you say painted last week. Because of last week, we use painted, past simple, the second form of the verb. It's very important to pay attention to last week. Something happened in the past and no connection with it. And in present perfect simple, we use has painted because there is connection with now and we see the result of the action. That's why it's present perfect simple. This is the difference between those two tenses. Next, present perfect continuous versus present perfect simple. And most people say when to use present perfect continuous when simple. In present perfect continuous, we're interested in the action itself. Murat has been painting the walls in his room. If we see Murat in paints and his clothes in paints, we are interested in the action, and that's why we are asking, what have you been doing? So we are interested in the action itself, not the result. We are not interested in the result. We don't know if that person finished, completed painting or not. In the second sample, in present perfect simple, Murat has painted the walls in his room, the result of the action. We are interested in the result, not in the action. So we know that Murat has painted. He completed this action. That's why it's present perfect simple. This is the difference between these tenses. Let's move on non-finite forms of the verbs. First, we'll start with complex object. There are three main points that we must know. Verb plus object plus to and plus infinitive. There are samples: want, know, expect, tell, ask, try, remind, persuade, advise, wish, would like, etc. Father wants his son to be a doctor. We never say father wants his son be a doctor, or father wants his son being a doctor. We must remember that most verbs are used with to after the object. Father wants his son to be a doctor. The next column, verb plus object plus infinitive. There are two verbs, make and let, that are used with infinitive after the object. No to, no ing. The teacher made the students read the text again. Let them come in. But everyone must know. However, there is an exception. There are always exceptions in the English language, and there is exception to use to after make if it's given in the passive voice. For example, the policeman made the man open the suitcase. If we change this sentence into the passive voice, the man was made to open his suitcase by the policeman. So if we change active voice into the passive, we use to after make. And let is not used in the passive voice. Everyone must know. We use allow, permit, other synonyms, other words, synonyms of let. The set column is verb plus object plus infinitive or verb with ing. See, hear, smell, feel, watch, observe, notice, find. I have never heard my teacher speak French, or I heard some voices calling for help. If the action is in progress, use ing after those verbs. If not, something happened for a moment, or in general, you don't use ing. You use only infinitive and without to. This is the complex object rules. Another subtopic is gerund. Again, non-finite form of the verb. A gerund is a verb form ending in ing, and it's used as a noun. Ing form as part of a verb phrase, ing form as a present participle, and ing form as a gerund. There are three forms with ing. In order not to confuse them, we must know some points. First ing form is part of a verb phrase. Kate has been cleaning house all day. Cleaning is part of the verb phrase has been cleaning. As you see, has been cleaning, it's a verb phrase. If you say present continuous, past continuous, present perfect continuous, or past perfect continuous, continuous tenses. So you must know that this ing form is a part of a verb phrase. It's not a gerund. The second is ing form is a present participle. These cleaning brushes work well on many surfaces. Cleaning is a participle and functions as an adjective describing brushes. So in this case, cleaning describes brushes. It's participle one. It's called participle one or present participle. We'll discuss participles in the next slides. And gerund itself, ing form as a gerund. Kate doesn't mind cleaning if the rest of his family will help too. So cleaning is a gerund and functions as the direct object of the verb phrase doesn't mind. After mind, after certain verbs, let's say, we use the verbs with ing, and it's called a gerund. Doesn't mind cleaning. That's why it's a gerund. Let's pay attention to main points in gerund. Verbs plus verb with ing. There are commonly used, let's say, verbs. Stop, finish, begin, start, continue, go on, mind, remember, forget, try, need, love, like, enjoy, dislike, hate, suggest, mention, avoid, prefer, give up, etc. After them, we use ing. If we see the verb after those verbs, then we use the verb with ing. She likes reading. And there is a little difference between saying she likes reading and she likes to read. If we use she likes reading, then it's gerund. Likes reading. Do you mind closing the window? Again, mind and closing. This is gerund. Prepositions plus verb with ing. I give some of them, there are a lot of prepositions in the English language. Before, after, with, without, on, in, at, etc. I washed my hands before eating. He's interested in reading. After, before, and in, we see the verbs. The verb takes ing ending, so it's a gerund. The third column as a subject, a part of a predicate. Reading is useful. Reading is a gerund and it's in the position of the subject. Another sample is his favorite occupation is reading. In this case, it's given as a part of predicate. It's also gerund. Non-finite forms of the verbs, and another subtopic is participles. Verbs are formed from verbs and they are used as adjectives, nouns, or adverbs. And one kind of verbal is the participle. Participle is the verb form that can be used as an adjective. So it means it describes something. Let's see the samples. A winning attitude. The participle winning describes the noun attitude. The exciting news. The participle exciting describes the noun news. The folded page. Again, folded describes the noun page. And the chosen few. The participle chosen describes the pronoun few. In this case, it's a pronoun. There are two kinds of participles. Present participle, as I mentioned before, it's called participle 1. And past participles, it's called participle 2. All present participles end in ing. Past participles may end in ed, or n, or t. However, some past participles are formed in other ways. Let's see the samples. Zippy chased the rolling ball. Rolling is a present participle describing ball. What kind of ball? Rolling ball. The house painted green is my uncle's. The past participle painted describes house. In this case, we say that painted green, someone painted it in green. That's why it's past participle. Will this broken table need to be replaced? Broken describes table, and it's also past participle. A participial phrase is used as an adjective and consists of a participle and any complements or modifiers at the same time. Harry put the invitations written on red paper. If you say we have complement, it's like addition to written on red paper in his friend's lockers. And this phrase consists of the participle written and the adverb phrase on red paper. And another sample is for recently built aircraft are ready for test flights. And participial phrase consists of, again, participle built and the adverb recently. Let's see the difference between gerund and present participle. The samples for gerund. She suggested going to the cinema. He thinks of visiting Spain, and debating inspired one to become a lawyer. Suggested going, a verb that comes together with another verb. That's why we add ing. He thinks of visiting, of a preposition. That's why we add ing after preposition. And debating inspired. Debating is a subject of the sentence. That's why it's a gerund. Present participle. The man standing under the tree is my father. The man who is standing under the tree. You can change the sentence this way in order to understand if it's present participle or gerund. Eating his cupcake, the toddler sighed happily. Eating his cupcake, doing something, the toddler sighed happily. It's also present participle. The passive voice, I give the main structure, be plus past participle 2. And first, we'll see simple tenses. And then we'll go on with the other tenses. Simple tenses. The common structure, the general structure is be plus verb 3. So be is changed in the present simple. Am is are plus participle 2. The room is cleaned every day. If we give a plural noun, we change is into are. The rooms are cleaned every day. Past simple, the room was cleaned last week. We use was, were, and verb 3, participle 2. The rooms were cleaned last week. Future simple will be and plus participle 2, verb 3. The room will be cleaned tomorrow. Even if we change the room into the plural form, anyway we'll use will be cleaned. Because will is used with all the pronouns and all the nouns. The rooms will be cleaned tomorrow. The next slide tells us about continuous tenses, and mainly present continuous and past continuous. Am is are, they remained. We use am is are. Then we add being because it's continuous, and plus verb 3. If you pay attention, am is are and being. Being, if we say am is are plus verb ing, it's continuous, it's present continuous. But if you pay attention to this part of the structure, being plus participle 2, it's be plus participle 2. We can change the form of be. That's why am is are, being continuous, present continuous, and being plus participle 2, passive. That's why it's present continuous passive. The room is being cleaned at the moment. In the past, we use was, were instead of am is are, the same structure, was, were, being past continuous, and being in any form, if it's be. Being plus participle 2, it's passive. So past continuous, passive. The room was being cleaned at this time yesterday. So someone was doing it. Perfect tenses, present perfect tense, have has its auxiliary verb, as everyone knows. Have has plus been plus participle 2. The same here, have has plus been, the third form of the verb. It's perfect, and been plus participle 2, it's passive. Together, it's present perfect passive. The room has just been cleaned. Had been, participle 2, past perfect passive. The room had been cleaned before the guests came. The future tense will have been, participle 2. The room will have been cleaned by 7 p.m. tomorrow. So someone will have cleaned the room. Modal verbs. Modal verbs plus be plus participle 2. The room must be cleaned by le man. We use a modal verb, be, and verb 3. If it's a regular verb, it takes ed ending. If it's an irregular verb, so it's changed. I want to show how this structure changes, how the active voice changes into the passive. Le man must clean the room. The room is an object of the sentence. It's an active voice. Le man must clean the room. We know that someone must clean, and it's le man. In order to change the sentence from the active voice into the passive, the object of the active voice becomes the subject of the passive voice. And then we use the structure for the passive voice. Must be clean. Be is very important. We cannot form the passive voice without using be. It's impossible. So the room must be cleaned by someone. If we want to mention by whom, we add by and the name of that person, or maybe we can replace them with pronouns. The other cases for the passive voice, many verbs that are followed by that clauses, for example, think, believe, say, can be used in the passive structures with introductory, it. They are mostly rather formal but common in news reports. Let's see the samples. It's thought that the minister will resign. It is thought. At that time, it was believed that the sky was crystal clear. It's expected that the company will become profitable in the new year. It was said that the gods were angry. So it was said, it's expected, it was believed, it is thought. They're also the passive voice. And another way of expressing the same ideas is with subject plus passive verb and plus infinitive. I underlined to have, to show that to is very important to use in these sentences. He's known to be in Wales. They're said to own several houses. It's also passive. They're said. She's understood to have I left home. Note the perfect infinitive. This structure is also possible with there as the subject. There are thought to be fewer than 20 people still living in the village. It's also the passive voice. There are thought. There were said to be ghosts in the house, but I never heard anything. The next is the modal verbs. A modal is a helping, or as we say, auxiliary verb, which is joined with the main verb or infinitive to express an attitude toward the action or state of being of the main verb. Main verb is also significant to know that we cannot use modal verbs without main verbs. The modal can or could is used to express ability. Can is used for the present tense and could for the past, but in some cases, in questions, in interrogative sentences, if we want to be polite, we use could for the present. For example, we can say, can you open the door, or could you open the door, please? Can you lift that heavy box? I could lift it, but my wrist is sprained. The modal may is used to express permission or possibility. If it's permission, we use may. You may borrow my new bike, however, you may not like it. But there is another modal verb, it's might. We use might for possibility, for future. In this case, may and might, they are synonyms. We can use may and might. We can say, I may go to Italy next year, or I might go. It's possibility. The modal verbs and the third point, the modal might, like may, is used to express possibility, as I mentioned. Often the possibility expressed by might is less likely than the possibility expressed by may. Brittany might win the race, but Joe is a faster runner. The modal must is used most often to express a requirement, abrogation. It's important to remember. Sometimes must is used to express an explanation. All contest entries must be postmarked by June the 9th, 2009. The modal, it's repeated. The modal ought is used to express an obligation or a likelihood. So if we want to give advice to someone, we use should or ought to, they're synonyms. Ryan ought to receive an award. We pay attention to ought. Later on, we'll compare should and ought to. And ought is used with to. The modal will or shall is used to express future time. The package will arrive in 3 to 5 days. And everyone knows that we use will for the future tense. The modal should is used to express a recommendation, an obligation, or a possibility at the same time. We should place new items in the display case. The modal word is used to express the conditional form of a verb, and we use it in second conditional. If my uncle opened the bakery, he would fulfill a lifelong dream. Would is the past form of will. Let's compare modal verbs with the equivalents. Instead of can, we can use am, is, are able to. Instead of could in the past, we can use was, were, able to. For perfect tense, we can use have, has been able to, have been able to, has been able to. And for the past tense, we can use had been able to. For the future, we use will be able to. The difference is we cannot use can or could as an infinitive. That's why we need am, is, are able to, because we are able to. They can be used as infinitives. That's why. Must, instead of must, we can use have to. But in some cases, we know that have to is stronger than must. In some cases, we cannot use must, we have to use have to. We can use must have done for the past form of must. So if we want to say something referring to the past, we use must have done. Instead of had to, we can use must have done. Or we replace it with had to. It's okay if we say have to instead of must have done. And should is the synonym of ought to. Ought is used with to, but should without to. Other modal verbs, need. Need as a modal and need to. Let's compare them. Need can be a modal verb, but the only modal forms that we use are needn't or needn't have done plus past participle. You needn't leave yet, it's early. You needn't have done that report. And we can use need in questions. Need I go now, for example? Those are modal verbs. But if we say need to, it's not a modal verb. We generally prefer to use need to, which is a regular verb with the usual verb changes. So it's used as a main verb. You need to leave now. Do I need to buy batteries? In this case, we use do, does. She does not need to do it. We didn't need to charge the battery. For the past tense, we use didn't. So need to is not a modal verb, but needn't and needing questions. If you use need before the subject of the sentence and you don't use to, it's a modal verb. The verbs need to and dare to are occasionally used in two forms. You don't need to turn the computer off. You need to turn the computer off. They are the same. They have the same meaning, but if we use to, it's a main verb. If needn't, then it's a modal verb. I don't know if I dare to tell her what's happened. We don't dare go or we don't dare to go there after dark. I don't know if I dare tell her what's happened. If we use dare without to, in this case, it's a modal verb. We daren't go there after dark. Modal verbs take not. We can say must, mustn't, dare, daren't, should, shouldn't. But for the main verbs, we don't do it. We cannot add not to the main verbs. In this case, we need helping verbs, auxiliary verbs. Must and should are modal verbs. Let's see the difference and the past forms of them. You should see a doctor. It's a kind of advice. We can also use the perfect form should or should not have done, past participle. We should have bought it. If we think about something that we didn't do in the past, so we can use should have done. The structure of should have done, should have bought, or should have, the contracted form. Should we have left? In questions, should stands before the subject of the sentence. Or we should not have gone, we shouldn't have gone, and it's a negative form. Ought to and had better have this word order. I ought to go, I ought not to go, ought I to go. And pay attention to asterisks, please. I had better go, I had better not go, had I better go. In two cases, I ought not to go, had I better go. We don't usually use these forms in spoken English. The next topic is the adverb. We moved on the second topic. An adverb modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. It makes the meaning of the verb, adjective, or adverb more definite by telling where, when, how, or to what extent. To what extent means how much, how often, or how long. There are types of adverbs and there are examples. Adverbs of manner, how we do something. Slowly, quickly, carefully, well. Lines move slowly and silently. Another type of adverb is an adverb of frequency, how often we do something. Often, sometimes, never, usually, so on. Degree, how much, to what extent we say. Very, really, a lot, a little. Time, when, today, soon, last week, at the weekends. Place, it shows where something is or someone is. Here, upstairs, in an office. And direction, which way? Left, right, straight on, across the road, or through the grass. Adverbs modifying verbs. Adverbs modify verbs and also may introduce questions. They may come before or after the verbs they modify. Adverbs may also come between verbs in a verb phrase. There are samples. Write his name here. Here tells where to write his name. She will politely ask. Politely tells how she will ask. Here is at the end of the sentence, politely, between an auxiliary verb and the main verb. When did Adam call you? When introduces a question. Some words that can be used as nouns can also be used as adverbs. For example, today. As a noun, today is my birthday. Today is the subject and it's a noun in this sentence. Today I'm celebrating my birthday. It tells when, so today tells when I'm celebrating my birthday, and it's an adverb. And the morphological composition of adverbs. Adverbs can be simple, derivative, compound, and composite. Simple ones, no prefixes or suffixes. Enough, then, there, only the root the word. Derivative ones, they're used with suffixes. ly, we mainly use ly in order to change an adjective into an adverb, badly, nearly, what or what's, backward or backwards, forward. Or we can use long, headlong, sidelong, wise, otherwise, clockwise. Company ones, anyhow, nowhere, anywhere, sometimes. There are two words combined together, that's why they're called compound adverbs. And composite ones, at once, at last. They're mainly given with the prepositions. Degrees of adverbs. There are 3 degrees, positive, comparative, and superlative degrees. If we see as, not as, not so as in the given sentence, straight away we use a positive degree of an adverb. He reads as well as I do. She doesn't sing as beautifully as he does. He is beautifully, we don't add more or most. In the comparative degree, we use more before adverbs. She can speak English more fluently than her sister. In the superlative degree, we use most and no the. However, I came across with some books, grammar books, and mainly American ones. Some authors use the before most in the superlative degree of adverbs, but mainly the is not used. He listens to the teacher most attentively, not the most attentively. But again, there are exceptions. There are some words that are the same. They're used as adjectives and as adverbs the same way. Hard, harder, hardest. Hard is an adverb, hard is an adjective. If we add ly to the word hard, it will have another meaning. Hardly, it's another meaning, so it's not an adverb form of the adjective. Hard, hard, harder, hardest. Low, lower, lowest. Late, later, latest. Early, earlier, earliest. High, higher, highest. Long, longer, longest. Near, nearer, nearest. Fast, faster, fastest. And there is one sample in order to see the difference between them. You're given some sentences, you can be given some sentences, and you'll be asked to choose the sentence where fast or the other words that are mentioned are given as adjectives or adverbs. So he's a fast runner. Fast stands before a noun, fast runner, and describes runner. That's why it's an adjective in this case. He runs fast. How does he run? It's an adverb. In this case, fast is an adverb. This is the difference between them. And there are irregular adverbs. Well becomes better, best, badly was worst, much more most, a little, less least, far, farther, further, farthest, furthest. The difference is we never use the before a superlative degree of adverbs. Remember, the most significant slide, I think, in this topic. Be, become, get, look, sound, smell, taste, feel, remain, sing, keep, come, stay, plus adjectives. We never use adverbs after these verbs. The salad tastes delicious. We never say the salad tastes deliciously. My dream comes true. We cannot say my dream comes truly. we must know that some adjectives end in ly. They have ly ending. So they have ly in them. Elderly, friendly, lovely, lively, early, daily, chilly, silly, jolly, lonely, etc. There are some samples. Mr. Thompson is a friendly man. The lonely student is starving for friendship. So a friendly man, friendly describes man, it's an adjective. The lonely student is starving for friendship, lonely. It also describes a noun, it's an adjective, it is ly. But how do we form an adverb form of these adjectives? With the help of a way, a friendly way. Mr. Thompson welcomed the guests in a friendly way. This is the adverb form of the adjective friendly. The third topic, today's topic, the pronoun. A pronoun takes the place of one or more nouns or pronouns. It means a pronoun replaces a noun. It's used instead of a noun or other pronouns. The noun or pronoun that a pronoun stands for is called the antecedent of the pronoun. Sometimes the antecedent is understood or unknown. Let's see the sample. Have you seen the art of Carla Marquardt or Betsy Lundquist? Each has her own style which you like, but one is quite different from the other. The pronoun you is understood to refer to the reader. So, have you seen refer to someone. Each and her replace the nouns Carla Marquardt and Betsy Lundquist. So each has, it means each person. Her, again, her refers to those two people. I is understood to refer to the writer, which one and other refer to the noun style. So we don't repeat style, we use which, one, and other. So, but one is quite different from the other. It means one style and from the other style. We replace the word style with one and other. I give a table. It's just a quick reminder of a personal pronoun, subjective form, we say nominative pronouns. I, and objective form me, possessive that's used with mine, with a noun, my plus noun, possessive without a noun, and the reflexive ones. So I, me, my, mine, myself, we, us, ourselves, and so on. And you in singular, you in plural, they, he, she, it. Let's compare personal, reflexive, and intensive pronouns. A personal pronoun refers to the one who is speaking, so first person. The one or once spoken to, second person. Or the one or once spoken about, it's the third person. Did he tell you about the plans? Both of them are personal pronouns. A reflexive pronoun refers to the subject of a sentence and functions as a complement or as an object of a preposition. She bought herself a new dress. He finished the test by himself. An intensive pronoun emphasizes its antecedent and has no grammatical function in the sentence. The sample is, they worked the puzzles themselves. Let's move on the other samples, and I'd like to explain the difference between them. Reflexive ones. Clara let herself in through the front door. Herself refers to the subject Clara and completes the meaning of the verb let. Clara let herself. The raccoon kept the fish for itself. Itself refers to the subject raccoon and the object of the preposition for. Intensive ones, the manager himself made the delivery. Himself emphasizes the antecedent manager. Antecedent means that himself refers to manager. To determine, to identify whether the given pronoun is reflexive or intensive. First, we'll read the sentence without the pronoun. If the meaning of the sentence changes without the pronoun, then it's reflexive. If it doesn't change, then it's intensive. He prepared the salad himself. Without himself, the meaning of the sentence doesn't change. Himself is intensive. So we can say he prepared the salad. We don't need himself. So if we add himself in this case, it's intensive, not reflexive. The second sample, he prepared the salad for himself. The sentence doesn't make sense without the pronoun. Himself is reflexive. We cannot say he prepared the salad for whom? So it's important to use something here after for. So it's reflexive. Demonstrative pronouns. A demonstrative pronoun points out a noun or another pronoun. They are this, that, this, or those. This and that point out singular nouns and pronouns, and these and those point out plural nouns or pronouns. Are these the only flavors available? This points out a plural noun. Flavors. It replaces, somehow replaces flavors to point, it points out. This is the one that I built. This points out a singular pronoun and it's one. That's why we use this. The same words that are used as demonstrative pronouns can also be used as adjectives. If these words describe nouns or pronouns, they are called demonstrative adjectives. So pronoun, this is my favorite song. This is a pronoun referring to song. This song is my favorite. So in this case, this is an adjective because it describes song, the word song. Interrogative, relative, and conjunctive pronouns. I'd like to mention that if you look through different grammar books, especially English books, American grammar books, or British ones, you won't come across with conjunctive pronouns because their classification is different. So this, they only speak about interrogative pronoun and relative pronouns. There is a little difference, that's why. But in our grammar programs, curriculum, if you paid attention, you see conjunctive pronouns. That's why I added a conjunctive pronoun as well. An interrogative pronoun introduces a question. A relative pronoun introduces a subordinate clause. It's merely an attributive clause. A conjunctive pronoun introduces a subordinate clause, mainly subject clauses, object clause, and predicative clauses. Interrogative ones. Who is coming to the party? So in this case, who is an interrogative pronoun. Relative ones. Who, whose, which, that. The girl, and even we can use whom as well. I gave the sample with whom. The girl whom they nominated for class president is Gloria. Conjunctive ones, who, what, whose, which. The difference is they are the same. The difference is in that and what. I remembered who had given me her number. I give more examples in this slide. Interrogative ones: who, whom, whose, what, which. And who likes to listen to music? Whose magazine is it? Which of you drinks coffee? What did you send to Mark? All of them are interrogative pronouns. Relative ones: who, whom, whose, which, that. I don't know the man who, or we can replace who with that. In this case, lives there. I met the man whose brother worked with me. We use whose because of brother with a noun, and that's why we must use whose. The car which, as I mentioned before, we can replace which with that. Which is used for things and who is used for people, but that replaces them. The car which or that I loved was stolen. Conjunctive ones: who, whose, which, what. I remembered who had given me her number. I know whose book it is. I understand what you mean. I can't decide which dress is better. If you pay attention to the clauses, you will see that all of them in relative ones, all of them are attributive clauses. But here you see mainly, in general it's called subordinate clause, but subject clause and predicative, object clause and predicative clause are used here. Relative pronouns, some other samples. A relative pronoun generally relates to descriptive information found within a subordinate clause, to a noun pronoun found in the main clause. For example, Maria owns a Great Dane, which is a very large dog, which introduces the subordinate clause, which is a very large dog, and relates this descriptive information to Great Dane. Maria, who owns a Great Dane, lives next door. Who introduces the subordinate clause who owns a Great Dane and relates this descriptive information to Maria. Maria, whom neighbors often see outside, has a large yard. Whom introduces the subordinate clause whom neighbors often see outside and relates this descriptive information to Maria. The Great Dane that Maria owns is almost always with him. That introduces the subordinate clause that Maria owns and relates this descriptive information to Great Dane. Reciprocal pronouns: each other and one another. In speech, we use each other for two people and for more than two people. But in grammar, we must pay attention to this point that each other is used for two people. We haven't seen each other for ages. But one another is used for two and more people. They looked at one another for a moment, so there were more people, more than two. And we can use apostrophe after each other. We didn't understand each other's style of life. Indefinite pronouns. In grammar books, what I noticed for years, they call all these pronouns indefinite pronouns. That's why first I prepared this slide this way. An indefinite pronoun refers to a person, place, idea, or thing that may or may not be specifically named. Some common indefinite pronouns are all, any, anybody, both, each, everyone, everything, few, many, more, neither or neither in American English, nobody, none, no one, one, other, several, some, and somebody. For example, a few of these sandwiches are left if anyone would like more to eat. There are three indefinite pronouns. but we split them into defining, indefinite, and negative pronouns. Defining pronouns are each of, every. Never use of after every. Every and everybody, everyone, everything, everywhere. Each student was given a book. If you say each in the sentence, a noun that comes after it must be in singular, and the verb must be in singular. It's very important to remember. Always remember to use was after each. Each of the workers, again, each of, even if workers, the word workers is plural, we must pay attention to each. Each demands a singular verb. Each of the workers was at the meeting yesterday. Every student, every also demands a singular noun. Every student in our group reads a lot. And again, a singular verb. I have read every one of these books. It means every single book. Every one of. We can use every one of, but not every of. Every one of these books. Everybody was glad to meet her. Or we can say everything is okay. Again, I use is, not are. All of them were in time. We use plural verb after all. Both of these restaurants are very good. Because of both, we use are. Both books were boring. We can use both without all. Only if there is a pronoun, objective pronoun, then in that case we use of. Can either of you speak Spanish? There are two people and we ask them, can either of you speak Spanish? It's either. Do you want tea or coffee? Either. I don't mind. So either of them. Again, defining pronouns. We'll go on with them. The other, others or the others. It depends on the rules of the article. So if it's certain, you use the. If it's given in general, you use others without other and another. There are two boys in the classroom. One boy is short, the other is tall. So the other replaces a singular noun. The other. It's used without s and it's used with the. The other. Only in this case, they're given together. They can replace a singular noun. So we didn't repeat the word boy. There were many people at the party. Some were dancing, the others were talking. Again, we don't repeat the word people. The others replaces the word people. So the others replaces a plural noun. The other for singular nouns and the others for plural nouns is used for plural nouns. They replace nouns. We don't have any nouns here. If you say the other, we can use the other one. If we use one, it's okay, but no other words. Next, some people like coffee. Other people, or we can say others, prefer tea. So people, this word is a plural noun. That's why we use other before people. I have eaten an apple. I want another apple. Apple is a singular noun. So one, only one apple. That's why it's another. Actually, another is formed with the help of an and other. An is an article, and it refers to a singular noun. That's why after another we use only singular noun, but after other only plural nouns. And there is another structure, no plus other. If you see no and the gap between no and other words, especially describing words, adjectives and nouns, then straight away you use other. We never say no another. There were no other good options. After no, we use other. Indefinite pronouns. Some, any, one, once. Some, somebody, someone. They're synonyms. Something, somewhere. Somebody, someone. They refer to people, something to things, and somewhere, place. Everyone knows. And there are simples. There is some sugar in my tea. Sugar, an uncountable noun. That's why we use some. We can use some before an uncountable noun, but with a singular verb. There is some sugar. There are some desks in the classroom. Desks. It's a plural noun. That's why we use some, but the verb must be plural. There is someone in the garden. Somebody, someone, something, somewhere. All these indefinite pronouns are used with a singular verb, not a plural verb. We cannot say there are someone in the garden. There is someone in the garden. And the same with any. We use any. We use some in affirmative sentences, in positive sentences, but in some cases we can use some in interrogative sentences. If we offer something, would you like some coffee, for example? Only in this case we use some in questions. Any is used in negative sentences and interrogative sentences. But there is a sample. We can use any in affirmative sentences as well. There isn't any sugar in my tea. Again, sugar is an uncountable noun. That's why it isn't. There aren't any desks in the classroom. The same sentences, but in the negative form. There isn't anything on the table. Again, isn't, not aren't, but you can take any book you like. If I find any of your books, I'll send them to you. Any of them, any you wish. In this case, we use an. One once. We use one once to replace nouns in order not to repeat nouns. I like these pens, but I don't like those ones. In order not to say I don't like those pens, we use once. It's sometimes difficult to express one's opinion. Again, one person's opinion. Negative pronouns. No, nobody, no one, nothing, nowhere. No cars are allowed in the city center. No can be used before nouns, and it makes the whole sentence negative. No one in the class does their homework. We cannot use not. We cannot use two negative words in one sentence. One word is enough. No one makes this sentence negative. So no one in the class does, and we cannot say do, does. We need a singular verb. No one in the class does their homework. Next, negative pronouns, none and neither, or we say neither in American English. None of this one is mine, or none of the shops were or was open. We can use the verb in the singular form or in the plural form. How much milk we got? None. We can use none in the answers. We approved neither plan. So there were two plans, either, neither. Both they are used for two people, for two things, for two ideas only. We approved neither plan. It means there were two of them and we approved neither of them. Next, quantifiers. I gave quantifiers separately because they're given separately. In some books they're given in pronouns, in some of them separately. Quantifiers, much, too much, a little, very little, too little. If you use much and little before nouns, you must pay attention to if it's an uncountable noun or a countable noun. We can use them before uncountable nouns. We can say much water, much work, too much time, a little water, little work. Little work means almost no work. I will explain the difference between little and a little. We can say very little time or too little sugar. With countable nouns, we use many, too many, a few, very few, too few. Too many books or too many books, many friends, too many people, a few books, few friends, which means almost no friends, very few people, too few students. However, we use a lot of, lots of, with countable and uncountable nouns. With both of them, we can say a lot of water, a lot of work, a lot of books, a lot of friends. But if we use a lot alone without a noun, so it means it's mainly used at the end of the sentence and after the verb. We can say I read a lot. If there is a noun in the sentence and the gap between it, so we use, and you're given some options, to choose many, a lot of, or a lot, much. So you must know that we need of. We cannot say a lot sugar or a lot books, a lot of books, a lot of work. And a number of the number of. They're also confusing. A number of, we know that an is used before a singular noun. But in this case, it's vice versa. So a number of is used with the plural verb. A number of people have come to the party, unspecified quantity, by the way. A number of people have come to the party. So we don't know how many. The number of is used with a singular verb. The number of people we need to hire is 10. So exact quantity. That's why it's the number of. And the verb must be given in a singular form. Some. We use some before plural countable and uncountable nouns. We mentioned about it. So some chairs, some soup. Several is used before plural countable nouns. Several books, several rooms, several buildings, and so on. Each, every, they demand a singular noun. We mentioned it. And each of, it's for revision. Each of plus plural countable nouns. Each of the students, but the verb must be given in a singular form. And we never say every of. We can say every student, every room. Next, most or both, they demand a plural noun. Most students, and plural verb, by the way. Most students have passed exams. All students have passed exams. Both students have passed exams. Such and so, the difference between them. We use such before a singular or a plural noun. How could you say such a thing? It's such an interesting story. We can add a describing word. We can add an adjective before a noun, but there must be a noun. Otherwise, we won't be able to use such. It's such an interesting story. There are such interesting books. So is used before adjectives and adverbs. She's so clever. He runs so quickly. And enough. Enough is used before nouns. Enough is used before nouns, but after adjectives. There is enough money to buy fruit. He's tall enough to reach the shelf. We cannot say he is enough tall. He's tall enough. It doesn't sound. And there is not money enough, but enough money to buy fruit. Else, everyone comes across with else, which means other, another, different, or additional. It's used with how, what, where, who, why, plus else, or everyone, anyone, somewhere, nowhere else. Where else did you go? What else did you do? It looks really busy in there. Let's go somewhere else. How many is used with more and plus plural nouns. How many more apples can I have? If you say this structure, it must be how many more and plus a plural noun. If you say only before a little, a few, you must know that a article must be used here. There are only a few people in the street. There is only a little water in the bottle. We cannot say only few people. Only little water. Only few, only a little. The difference is between a few. If we say few people, it means nearly no one came. But if we say a few, it means some people came. This is the difference. Else other difference. It's repeated here. We don't need it. Okay, that's it. I think, I hope I could cover these topics.